Yep, I'm in there.
You gotta go get me a key card too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm in there.
Recording in progress.
All right, brother.
All right, bro. Go get your key pop, bro. Okay, brother. Peace. Oh. There you go.
Peace and y'all bless, brother. I'm back.
Peace and y'all bless, brother. You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, I'm making sure I wasn't on mute or nothing. Yeah, bro. That's I'm not sure you owe apology, bro. I mean, if they do that, fool, how long you think they've been knowing?
I mean, they knew when that when the whole situation transpired. They knew, so we'll get that. It'll be just fine when it's all said and done. But all that's taking place right now is a necessity. That way,
Right.
you know, it's my position is clearly understood. That's all I'm asking, and I'm thinking so far, it has been.
Yeah.
You know, so
yeah.
This is the first meeting that we've ever been the first ones here. Well, at least me anyway.
Well, we can kick it off. Talk about Passover.
Yeah, I think
and
Henry
the holy days.
Yeah, and the holy days, but predominantly I want to say Henry wants to cover Passover because a lot of people, you know, many of the camps are dealing to where Passover, they start Passover in April, not in April, you know, mid to late March.
Right.
So a lot of people will do it at different times, but you know, I give my viewpoint on that. You know, people are going to do things differently, and that's fine as long as we understand that we have to keep the law. Whatever we may have any disparities, confusions, and conflicts, I think that'll be made plain to us in time. As far as
go ahead.
As far as those dates are concerned, many people are not sure of what dates are which, and they're using. Some people go by the moon, some people go by the calendar. Some, you know, there's a bunch of different ideologies.
Some people say you shouldn't keep it at all.
Yes, well, some people say exactly. That's the other aspect. You shouldn't keep it at all. Some say you can't keep it in captivity,
right,
et cetera. You know, right. So I guess those are some of the things that we'll cover today.
Right. Okay. Well, all right. We're ready.
Here come Brother Hank.
Yeah, I see he's about to make some noise.
Peace and y'all bless, Hank.
Peace and y'all bless, yes.
How you doing, bro?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Peace and y'all bless, bro.
Hey, we're on time today. Yeah, some of the other brothers coming.
Yeah. Delvin and he's supposed to be coming.
We already know it. They'll all be here in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, 10 to 15 minutes. Yeah.
Boy, behaviors don't change. I don't care where we live, England, or wherever.
We the same people, bro.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah, that's it. It's all around the world. Same.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, waiting on these other brothers to show up.
Yeah.
I need to plug up my phone. My phone is running low on juice here.
Yeah, I got my phone plugged up right now. I tell you, boy, that duo can eat up your battery.
Oh, it will chew up a battery, no doubt. Yeah, it sucks a lot of juice. But that's man, that's the closest thing to being in the actual proximity of someone. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's
right.
like that's like being there.
I like it. Yeah, I like it. I ain't
Yeah.
gonna lie. Delvin.
Yo, I'm here. Let me
Hey.
put some lights on. 1 second.
Peace and y'all bless, Brother Devil. We can't see you now.
I know.
Yeah.
How about now? Better?
Yeah.
That's a whole lot better. Yeah.
All right, cool. Here, I'm ready to roll. All
All
good.
right.
I'm very well, very well. Tired, but very well. You know, busy doing what I do, and happy to do it. You know, great to see you guys.
Likewise. Here come Brother Dave coming through cyberspace right now.
Hi there.
Hi.
Peace and y'all bless,
Dave.
Brother Dave.
Brother. Peace and y'all bless.
I need to say. Oh, damn. Okay, I might have to disappear for a minute because my light isn't coming on, so it's messing around. So I might have to sort of play around with it. I just want to say to Delvin.
Yeah.
First of all, I met somebody you know called Jilly.
Jilly.
Yes, who's
Okay.
Viber. She's a Viber down in
G
Milton
or
Keynes.
Jilly?
Jilly.
Jilly. Okay, where's she from?
Milton Keynes way.
Okay, interesting.
Tall, thin girl.
You mean Jill Turner? Yeah, of course. Yeah, she's from Milton Keynes in that area. Yeah, for real. She's cool, man. She's cool. She loves you.
Well, and at the same time, I was at this place where Jilly is, and this guy walks in. Recognized him straight away. Phil Fearon.
No way, from Galaxy.
Yeah, and
No way.
I ended up spending a couple of days at his house.
No.
He came in. I said, Phil Fearon. He goes, allegedly Dave.
No way. That's amazing. That is incredible. Yeah. That is incredible.
Right, I've got to.
So he's a truth, is he? He's on the.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Wow.
I've got to fix this light, so I've got to do something. So I might drop off and be back in a sec.
Okay.
Listen, when this talk is over, give me a call after or tomorrow and update me. Yeah, because Jill's cool and she's got a lot of work for you as well, and you are very, very well known in that area, and so are all you brothers as well. They know that we are talking. I'm telling you, they know that we are assembling, and so and these people are white people basically. Phil Fearon's a black guy from back in the day, from the music world. But Jill, the lady Jill, she's a very nice lady, and she knows all about what's going on right now, and she's a really good person. So yeah, so that's great news. That's great news.
Yeah.
My day
Well,
there. Nice
let me try and fix this light. I'll be back in a sec.
Okay, do that.
Here's a question, Brother Henry. Where is young Prince Yisrrael? Where's he at?
I talked to him. Oh, Princess from Canada.
Prince.
Yeah, from Canada. Yeah.
I haven't heard anything from him. I sent him the invite every week, but I haven't heard anything.
Wow.
I haven't heard anything from him at all.
That's strange.
Did you send any to our brother Dawid in the
I talked to
peninsula?
Dawid, and he's supposed to be coming on, but
It's probably midnight over there or worse, or later. Actually.
it's about, I think they're 2 hours in front.
That's right.
So it's about
Okay, so that's not so bad. That's not so bad.
But I mentioned to Adrian to come on the tour today, and he called me up about a couple of hours ago, and he says even though it's going to be 11 o'clock there, he will still come on for a bit and speak because he knows that the subject matter is very, very important. So he'll be on late at some point, any minute now.
From the land.
Yes, from Israel.
Oh, that's the fella. Oh, that's the one of them hustlers.
Well, he was with the hustler, yeah. So
okay,
you can ask him what you want. Ask him what you want. See what you think of him. But he's very knowledgeable on a lot of this stuff, and it'd be good for us to get together and speak about this because we've all got a difference of opinions on certain things, and it'd be good to get together and just speak about it. So I hope he comes on today anyway. He said he was. Okay. So we'll see. So what's new with you, Lee? What's new in your area?
Nothing is new in my area. You know, prices are skyrocketing, gas prices, food prices, things like that. So from an economical perspective, I'm pretty much seeing here what everyone else is seeing in the respective places where they live.
Yeah.
I feel as though this is something that's going on not only nationwide, but also worldwide. Besides that, there's the uncertainty of the current military conflict in the Ukraine. So pretty much the same as when we spoke last time. Nothing much has changed.
Okay.
So,
Brother Malachi.
Brother Benaiah.
Benaiah, sorry. How's things with where you are?
It's the same. What the news you hear from Malachi is about the same here. We're only about 400 something miles away, and there ain't nothing changed. It's high gas prices, high prices for everything, drama all over the place. I mean, this is America. What can we say? This is the daughter of Babylon. It's gonna fall one day, and I can't wait till it falls.
Right. Well, it's gonna fall.
I just talked to Dawid who's coming on.
Okay, good.
Oh, good. Well, how about that brother from the land from Damona?
I tried to call him, but I can't get hold of him. I see him online. I sent him the invite, but it's like 11. I think it's 11 o'clock now, so I'm not sure.
Who's it, Brother Kazrael?
Yeah, Dr. Kazrael,
Yeah, I can actually imagine how busy he is.
Yeah, he's probably pretty busy.
Yeah.
But anyway, today's topic, my brothers, Henry, take it away.
It's a Passover, which I think coming next month.
Yeah.
Next month is when I usually commemorate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about now? Let me ask this: what's your position on Passover? Personally, I think it should be commemorated. What do the rest of you think?
I agree. My problem is I often don't know when it is. I get conflicting information from various places. Now, my view, I might be wrong, is to look for the new moon for the beginning of the month, and then 15 days from then. Is that right?
Right. Well, personally, I do believe in commemorating it. What I do, what some of us do, we look at April because it's conflict. Okay.
Who's this?
Right.
Oh, this is a brother from Damona?
No, from the land, from he's from the Negev or Segev.
Hi, Adrian.
Hey, how you doing, bro?
Yeah, I'm okay. Peace.
Peace and y'all bless, brother Adrian.
Peace and y'all bless, brother.
Blessings.
Right.
What I usually regard as the first month in the year is April. Because think about it. In England, do y'all say celebrate, but April 1st is considered April's Fool's Day?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and we know why that is historically, because April was considered the first month, and then when they changed the calendar to make it January 1st as the first month of the year, there were people that still regarded April as the first month in the year, the New Year's, and they were ridiculed as being those April Fools. So that's where April's Fool's Day originated. So April, and then 15 days from the 1st of April to April 15th, April 14th, that evening is the start of the new day. And that's when I observe the Passover. Because it's easier, it's easier to keep up with as far as commemoration. I mean, I know the new moon and everything, that's fine, but the calendar has been screwed up to an extent where, that's why some people keep it in March sometime, and then some people keep it at other times. It's because of that calendar conflict that the wicked has, messed up the calendar. So for,
here's where I'm, okay, so because of the calendar's fixed, it's not, aligned to the moon cycles. So that moon is sometimes in March. And I think it's mostly in March, because I think March should be the first day, March would be the first month of the year, according to their calendar, because if you say March is 1, yeah, that makes September 7 and October 8, November 9, December 10.
Right.
So I think, obviously that moon, because I think this year the moon is on April 1st.
Right. So I mean, this is what I'm saying. It seems to fluctuate, with this calendar. This calendar has got it screwed up. I mean, the moon cycle we know is pretty accurate, but the calendar is screwed up to extent where it'll be off. We're kind of off on these calendars. So until an accurate calendar, a Yah-centered calendar can be instituted, like I said, I commemorate it in April on the 15th of April.
Well, may I ask what Brother Malachi does?
Yes, I'm pretty much the same thing on the first day. First day of the year is considered to be April 1st, as far as how I commemorate Passover. And also on the first day of Passover is the evening of the 14th, which begins the 15th day. And right after that, Feast of Unleavened Bread kicks in also. So those are the days. And then, you have the last day, which is the 21st day, which begins on the evening of the 20th. So that's how I commemorate Passover. Not only that, for me, I actually, over my house, I do not leave my house the evening of Passover until the morning. So I stay indoors, and I have 3 red ribbons that I put, one above my doorpost and on the 2 side posts. And that's what I do. Some people may cook a lamb and things like that. Now, where the problem is, as far as some people going out to the store and buying a lamb and trying to eat lamb during Passover, there's specific instructions pertaining to any lamb for Passover. Number 1, it has to be drawn out and separated from the rest of the flock on the 10th day. No one has done that. The lamb has to be healthy, and it has to be a male of the first year. Now, when you go buy a lamb in the store, that lamb was not separated on the 10th day. You don't know if it's a male or a female. You don't know if it was healthy or well. So you're not able to keep those specific requirements. It has to be roasted by fire. Most people are going to cook it some other way. So even some people may eat lamb of some sort, but excuse me, if there were to, chances are they have not or were not able to follow some of those stipulations and guidelines that I have just listed. But let me conclude with this. I do understand that many people may keep Passover in April, and it may be different times, and it may be conflicting from one person to the next. However, we do understand that a common denominator here and the foundation of all of this is this law. So therefore, as we continue to commit ourselves to doing the law and to seeking to do that which is right in the sight of the Most High, if we are incorrect in dates, etc., due to ignorance, that is perfectly fine, because we can make an offering for ignorance. And I think that it will be made plain to us what is correct and what is not. If we are seeking that law with our whole heart and our whole soul, it will be made plain to us in the end.
Can I ask a question there?
Yes.
I came on tonight because Delvin asked me to come on and have a listen. And what you said, my brother, right there, is really why I've come on. There are a few texts that I'd like to ask our brothers tonight whether they agree with them, because it's the Creator speaking. If you agree with what I'm about to share with you, then we can get to the point where we can get truth. So are we okay to explore what the Creator says on about us and about his word?
Certainly.
Yep.
Okay, he says this, to you, my brothers, where you are today. And this is in Deuteronomy 28, verse 28 and 29. I'm looking to see if there's a unanimous agreement. If there isn't, then I'm going to leave the group until we get to that point. He says this, you shall seek for enlargement from your adversity, but there will be none among you to show the truth. Anybody disagree with that?
And this is in, did you say what chapter is this, Deuteronomy?
28 and 29. Chapter 28, verse 28.
Verse 29?
28 and 29.
Give me 1 second, gentlemen. Let me go get my book. 1 second.
Yeah, I'm doing the same. Sorry.
How you doing, brother? You good?
What scriptures are you reading from? What translation? What book?
Is it a different translation that he's reading from?
Okay, let me answer the question from the law itself. My brother who asked the question, I want to answer your question. Can you go to Deuteronomy chapter 31 to answer this question and read verse 24 to 26?
Well, after the brothers
31 done, Deuteronomy?
Yes.
I'm back.
31.
I don't recall reading that voice, that verse in 28, but let me look and see. You said Deuteronomy 28, verse 29?
Chapter 28, verses 28 and 29.
So the topic of discussion here is the Passover and the feast of feast days.
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. Yes, sir.
Yeah, because I had got in a little late, so I just want to get my take on it after the brother finishes speaking, because I heard brother Elder Benaiah speaking, and I heard Elder Lee speak on it too. So I wanted to address the past.
The reason why I want to bring our attention to the beginning of the conversation with the Most High is because the feasts and what's the most important regular feast, brothers?
The regular feast would be the feast would be a holy day. Sabbath day is the most regular thing that we're going to have.
Okay, so my question is this. Does the Sabbath, the violation of it, carry a death sentence?
It does.
And what does the law say about where there's a death sentence looming? What does the Most High say must be present in order to pronounce death on that man? There must be how many witnesses?
2 or 3.
2 or 3.
Excellent. So now regarding the Sabbath, we need 2 or 3 witnesses to help us to keep it. What are those witnesses, brothers?
The constellations could possibly be one of them. And also the word of the Most High, or that of his prophets. That can be a testimony to how to keep it.
Okay. The biggest sin that Israel has committed and continues to commit, according to the book of Enoch, is the violation of the computation of the days. So let us go back to the computation of the days, because we have 2 witnesses telling us how many days there are in the year that the Creator gave to us. My brothers, you know what the days are. How many days did he give us for the year?
Well, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna just say this, and we can be done with it. I don't regard the book of Enoch. I don't regard that book. That's not the law.
That's fine. That's fine. I'll tell you what the pronouncement is on you for that, but we'll come back to it. Does anybody regard the book of Jubilees?
No.
Okay, no. Fine. Okay, fine. Okay. So we've just now gotten rid of the 2 witnesses. So let me tell you what the law says. Here's the law. Listen to the Most High. Where a man is guilty of death, if the 2 witnesses are not presented, then, because you see, the witness of one man is not enough. to sentence a man to death. There must be at least 2 or 3. So the Creator says this, if the witnesses are not present, he says, leave them to me, and I will bring retribution to that man. That's what he says. I'm not saying anything of my own. I'm quoting him.
And where's this written at?
It's in the law.
Where?
Well, for me to quote the law, I need to tell you which law I'm quoting from. So you'll need to tell me what Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 24 to 26 says. We're going to get down to the authorized text. The one that the Creator authorized.
Sir, let's get straight to the point here. You just stated something, and I'm asking you exactly, where can I go in my book and find exactly what you just said? That's my question directly to you.
Absolutely. And for you to have the answer, you need patience. If you don't have it, I can't help you.
We're not doing it like this. Everybody's just coming out with that knowledge.
That's fine. That's fine. So let me bring Delvin in. Where's Delvin?
Yo.
Delvin, why did you invite me?
To do exactly what you're doing right now.
Okay,
no.
I'm done.
Okay, bye.
Okay, well, we'll see you later, bro. Thank you for coming out. Thank you very much.
Hold on a minute.
Bye.
Hold on a minute. Before we just close everything down, yeah? I brought on Adrian for a good reason, okay? He's got his version or his opinion.
It's not my version. It's not my opinion. I don't have opinions.
Okay. Well, the text you're talking from, you have an opinion about the text that you talk from, yeah?
That the Creator said he authorized.
Okay.
The way I was talking, why didn't he just come out and just say what he's about instead of asking us?
No, I do not dictate how you come out, and you do not dictate how I come out. This is how this works.
I know. Okay, it doesn't matter. We talk to you next time.
Okay, Adrian, we appreciate you coming out, man. You take care, brother. Bro.
Thank you, Delvin. Blessings.
All right.
Okay,
good
bye.
night. Good night.
All right, I want to get my take on as far as the topic of discussion here, which is the Passover and the feast days. It was mentioned before. I think I started out when I was listening. It was talking about the calendar, and yeah, I recently started to about the past 2 years. I started to try to observe the calendar and try to I haven't changed as far as like my Sabbath. I still keep the Shabbats on the 7th day of the week. Because from my understanding, the moon cycle doesn't determine the Shabbat days or the Sabbath days. It's just 7-day intervals, 6 days work, 7-day rest. Now, as far as the feast days, since I've left America the last 3 years, I've been observing and actually looking for, because what they call it's the beginning of the harvest season. If you look at the book, they normally discuss 2 years. You have the regular calendar year, but you also have the year of the harvest. And the year of the harvest is how you actually determine when the new year begins. So out here, we started looking at the barley season, which means the month of Abib. And the barley will usually starts to bud about 2 weeks before the new year begins. So I know a lot of people observe the crescent moon. Me, for one, I don't observe the crescent moon. I observe the first day of the month according to the full moon. And the reason why I observe the full moon instead of the crescent moon, because from my understanding, when Yah created the 2 great lights, he created them in their perfection. And the moon actually gets its full illumination from the sun. So when that moon is full, in order to determine that full moon, you have to look and see when this moon rises and when the sun sets. Now, when it's become to a complete balance, as the moon rises, the sun will set simultaneously. So here, this is how we determine the new months and the new years. There's 3 components to it. One, like I said, is the barley. Once the barley starts to rise, then you know the new year is bringing in the new year. 2 is the moon cycle, as far as when it lines up directly perpendicular from the sun. That's when you know you get a full moon, and that's to determine the beginning of months. And 3 is what they call the equinoxes, when you have a balance, when you have the same amount of daylight, same amount of night hours. So those are 3 components, according to my studies for the last few years, observing it, how I determine when the first year begins. So I take that, and then I start counting my days. So I think this year, the full moon just rose up right before the Shabbat, the Sabbath. So now we will count 14 days on the 14th day of even, which is the 15th day when the Feast of Unleavened Bread and the Passover will start at the same time begins. That's when we will be observing. And also I want to take a little further on to my studies this year. I would start to that Sabbath after the Feast of Unleavened Bread. That first Sabbath after Feast of Unleavened Bread, we will begin to start to count the 7 Sabbaths, the 49 days. Now, we won't be doing any, as far as the Passover, I agree with Elder Lee said about the lamb. Okay, now we will be observing, we will be memorializing it. You know, we will be acknowledging it, you know, but we won't be eating any lamb because like you said, there's certain laws and rules and regulations that go along with that lamb. For one, it has to be in the land. You know, Yah designated one area in one place only as far as sacrifices and sacrificial meats that should be eaten. And, you know, we really have to be careful about eating those type of sacrificial lambs or sacrificial, anything that can deal with sacrifices outside of that one place where Yah designated his place to be. I think that's Deuteronomy chapter 12, if I'm not mistaken. So, you know, like I said, I used to also, as Brother Benaiah and Elder Lee, Elder Benaiah, excuse me, pardon my ignorance, Elder Lee, I used to observe the April 1st, and then I count the 14 days, and on the 14th day of even, I would observe the Passover and Feast of Unleavened Bread as well. But as we progress on this path, we want to continue to seek the wisdom and knowledge. That's how Yah is going to give it to us. You know what I'm saying? So that's when I started to just observe. I've been observing for about 2 years now. Like I said before, just trying to find a pattern. Because I know it's a whole lot of different people saying different things. And, you know, I've heard it all basically when it comes to this moon cycle. Some people say 28 days a month. Some people say it's 30, 29, and things like that. So, you know, I just wanted to give a study for myself and just try to figure out, try to see if I can find a pattern so we can, you know, obtain the main objective, which is to get back on Yah's time. You know what I mean? So that's how I observe Feast of Unleavened Bread and Passover.
I have one question for you, Brother Dawid.
Yeah.
You mentioned 2 weeks prior to the beginning of months
Yeah.
before you see the barley starting to bud. Now, what time frame does that correspond to pertaining to the Gregorian calendar? What time frame would that 2 week period be that you're seeing from your end?
Well, last year it was the beginning of March. This year was the middle of March.
Okay.
So, no, I'm sorry. No, last year it was about a week and a half early, but it's usually in March. Usually in March into April. April is usually both of these 2 years. As I've been observing, both the Passovers have fallen in April, but the beginning of the year has fallen. Last year it was about a week early in March. This year is around the 19th to 20th.
Okay, so my question would be this now. So what you're stating is that from year to year, the Passover and the beginning of months changes and varies. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
And it all depends on this. See, also I was just talking to a few elders in the land, and they were telling me it depends on the winter, the winter season. Sometimes you might get a dry winter. Out here, the winter is when it normally rains. Okay, it's not as much as like in the Northeast where it's cold. It gets windy, but when it's rainy season, that's what you call your winter season. All right, heading into the new year. So that's when you'll start to get the early season crops. They'll start to bud and grow towards, and like I said, that's normally around late February, early March is when they start to spring up. When I was in the land, you can see it, it's clear as day. Because you'll see it's barley all over the place. Like all the hills, all the valleys, you can't miss it, you know, and the Most High, like I said, you know, it's without a doubt, you can see that barley's that new year coming. Okay, now the conflict is how people observe the moon. Now I know a lot of the Judaism, they observe the crescent or the dark moon. You know what I'm saying? And I don't follow that. Like I said, when the Most High created the two great lights, and when you understand how they move, how they circuit, they come to a complete balance where they line up directly from each other. And that's how you get determined the beginning of the month. So yeah, to answer your question, it varies. But also I wanted to ask a question. I want to let me know what y'all think about this. According to my studies, it used to be 30 days per month. Now, and these 2 years that I've been studying the cycle, I'm sorry. Okay, I thought somebody was speaking. In the 2 years that I've been observing this cycle, you would have months that's 29 days, and you'll have some months that's 30. This year that just passed, you had a balance. It was 6 months, 29 days, and you had 6 months, 30 days. Now, just asking a general question here, I want to just get your opinions on this, your thoughts. Now, you remember there was 2 times in this book that I've seen that Yah actually altered the cycle or the circuit of the sun and the moon, and according to the book of Yahushua, where the Most High stopped that sun and had that sun. I think the sun ran for 24 hours without the moon giving his light. And then it was another time during the book of during the time of Hezekiah, where the Most High, when he gave that sign to Hezekiah that he was going to extend his life 15 more years, he moved the sundial forward 10 degrees. No, backwards 10 degrees. He moved it forward first, and Hezekiah was like, that's not a big of a deal. Move it backwards. He moved it backwards 10 degrees. And to me, in my opinion, this is why you have the days are not right on. Like I said, it used to be 30, and now it's, like I said, some days you'll have 29, some days you'll have 30, and things like that. So what are y'all thoughts on that as far as the days being altered based off those 2 times where Yah has actually stopped the moon or stopped the moon from giving its light for 24 hours and actually pushing the sundial back? So what are y'all thoughts on that?
I had actually forgotten about that. Actually, I might have to read again. I do like the idea, going back to the Book of Enoch. I know some people don't go for that. I certainly do, but Book of Enoch says that every month is 30 days, and there are 4 special days on top of it. So the equinoxes and the solstices, so making a total of 364 days. So I kind of subscribe to that, which means our calendar is off and always shifting. So yeah, I think the calendar thing is a difficult thing to get around, because I don't think there is a perfect calendar, to be honest, but I don't know.
Yeah, as far as I'm familiar with the story of that's in Yahushua, where he caused the sun to stop to give them the victory and give them more daylight so that they could achieve the victory. And also with the you cited with Hezekiah, where his life was spared, and he was given more time, and that was a sign. I don't know that. I don't know if that has anything to do with the months, the cycle, between 30 and 29, 28 days. I don't know. I figure it's just like we have a clock. You could just set the clock for 3 o'clock, or you could hold it. You could set the dial back, but then how much time's passed. You just set it right back. I feel Yah can operate his creation in the same way. He can move it and direct it whatever way he does, and then he could obviously move it to be corrected. So I don't know if that altered the days of the month per se, but I do know that, to be honest with this Gregorian calendar and with this man fooling with times and all this kind of thing, we don't have the right time, and the only thing we could hope is that in time, Yah will reveal to us the right time and how to read it. What you were saying, Brother Dawid, is very interesting. And I've also heard the barley argument, where you look at the harvest, when the barley starts budding. But unfortunately, in these cities in the daughter of Babylon, we don't see barley. So we have a tough time judging that. So all we can do is go by the months or the seasons as we have it, and just hope that in the future that'll be right. It's not scriptural, but I could tell you my feelings is that if you're honest and you really want to do right in your heart of hearts, and you bring your petition before Yah and let him know, look, I don't know, but I'm gonna do whatever I can. And I think Yah, he understands, because he understands the position that we're coming from. Remember, we were all born in this time frame. We had been enslaved for years. Stuff has been messed up for years, and we're born in this time, and this is all we know. So yes, we want to do it the right way, but we just don't know. There's so many conflicting stories on how to determine, well, no, you got to look at this. Well, no, you got to go by this. No, you have to look by, it's all confusing. So that's where I am, as long as you're honestly trying to obey the Most High as best as you can glean from his word, then I think, he understands, because he's merciful. And he'll deal with you according to that. Now, unless you have some ulterior motive in your heart, but then Yah can read right through you. He knows who's for him and who's not. He knows who fear him and who doesn't. That's my view.
Can I speak on something that you just said? That's I'm definitely a witness to that, living in the inner cities, you can't see. It's hard to see that barley rise, and I really didn't pick up on it until I actually came out of America, to be honest with you.
Right.
Actually, I was in the land for the first 3 months when I came out, and yeah, that's when I really started to recognize, barley, even a different type of winter in the Northeast where I'm originally from. So I think that I definitely understand. What I want to say is this, though. With today. With this technology, we all in different areas now on the Zoom call, but we still be able to communicate. I think that it'd be a good thing if we can start to communicate with each other and start to, just to try to, like I said, we if we haven't already, we want to do this right. We all just want to get the right time down. And to me personally, I think it's going to take some time. I don't think it's something that's going to happen overnight. I think it's going to take some time, in order to get this pattern down and to get the knowledge on that. If one seeks to, if he so desires it, the Most High will give it to him in time. But I just want to say, as far as communication, as far as these years and go until we can get on one accord, we can just start just communicating, with people with different parts of the earth, with the barley rising and how the things going like that. So I think that would be a good start for us just to start to communicate and, like I said, eventually be able to figure out this time when Yah allows it.
Sorry.
But see, you've made a good point, Brother Dawid. The problem that we're having, it's still the fact that communication sounds great. However, many of us are not effective communicators as far as being able to give information in a manner that it may be received. And we've just seen an example of that a second ago. The purpose of this whole thing that Henry has pretty much created here is the fact that for us to get men of different places who believe or actually walk in the Most High's law, statutes, judgments, precepts. But anyone that is walking in this law should understand that the house of Israel, that we're going to have some disagreements, some misunderstanding, and things like that as it pertains to this walk, and to be able to have or see things, not see eye to eye, because we will not see eye to eye until the Most High brings again Zion, but to not see eye to eye, but yet we are to understand what the common goal is. And that is to walk in the law, even though we may see things a little differently here and there. And so I do like what you're saying, Brother Dawid, but we have just seen where our brother had just got on here and we saw how that communication went, right? So now it's a matter of us saying, okay, can we all agree on the basics of this law and that we need to follow it? And can we communicate in such a manner that is respectful and that we can actually, all of us can grow from a dialogue rather than someone who's trying to, i.e., shine, take over, or whatever the case may be. Just sharing information to where, because there's many people that look at this channel, that they may be able to gain something from it, and that we all can grow from it, even if we do disagree. Because one thing we don't want is to have this platform to where it pertains to the Most High and His Word, and all we have is a bunch of grown men on here bickering back and forth. There's enough channels with that, whether it be pertaining to this law or something else. And so if nothing else, we should at least have common ground pertaining to that. But I like the idea as far as us reaching out and talking to different types of people and gaining their perspective. But some people, like I said, are not willing to receive information, and some are not gifted enough to communicate in such a fashion that people are willing to even listen to what they have to say.
I just like to say that from what I've noticed over my little journey searching for the Most High, is that the answers that we're looking for are simple. But his word wasn't meant for theologians to interpret for us. We shouldn't need priests or pastors or experts to interpret the word for us. It was meant so that the ordinary Israelite can just look at the book and go, okay. And what you said, Dawid, about the Sabbath. Yeah, my problem, my search for the Sabbath, I was looking at the lunar calendar. I was looking at all the other ways that people were trying to figure out how to do it, and I was looking at the book and thinking, well, it's not clear. It's not clear until I took a step back, and it was just obvious. Every 7 days. That was it. No, nothing else. No more. No sort of looking at the moon or anything. It's every 7 days, right? And that's easy for anybody to figure out. It was just too easy for me at the time. I was looking for a complicated, solution. So whatever the solution is, it's going to be simple and easy for any Israelite to apprehend. Right. I would like to ask though, why or is there anything scripturally that also suggests that the new moon is actually the full moon?
I'd have to do some digging to answer that. I don't have an answer for that at all.
Yeah.
I think it's one chapter in Psalms. I forget off the top. I think it's 68 Psalm. I think where it talks about because it's talking about the memorial of blowing of the trumpets. I will have to search that. I forget the exact song. I think it's 68:4, something like that. But it's talking about the feast of blowing of the trumpets, and then some certain translations it actually tells you that it's the full moon, in the time of the full moon. I'm on a Zoom right now. I can't search it, but I would be able to look that up and get back to you when somebody else is speaking. I'll jump off. Also, like I said, I wanted to, just what you said about the Sabbath. Even when you look at the law. Now, I'm pretty sure at the time, when we had our nation together, we were all following one common calendar. So we were all observing the same 7 days, and I'm pretty sure we'll get back to that point now. In the future. Right now, like I said, the common calendar is, the Gregorian. That's what we follow according to the 7th-day Sabbath. Like I said, it's just 7-day intervals. That's all it is. It doesn't say anything appointed at the beginning of the month. That's how you start them 7-day intervals. And actually, even in the 30-day calendar, you will never be able to have 7-day intervals in the 30-day calendar. Because you'll always have 2 days where, they're just 2 free days. They don't play into the 30 day because it's only in order to have 7-day intervals, you'll have to have a 28-day calendar. So 7 doesn't go into 30 evenly. So that's one reason why I wasn't on the whole situation where, you got to start following the moon in order to get your 7-day Sabbaths when the law clearly states it's just 7-day intervals. 6 days you work, 7 days you rest.
Did anybody invite this person called Ellen?
I have no idea who. I have no idea who that is.
I don't know. Nobody invited me. Okay.
Hello, hey, how are you? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Who are you, brother? Where you from?
Hey, I'm from United States of America, and I currently live in Jordan now, overseas.
But then who gave you the link?
What's the guy? My friend Elijah.
Right. Adrian, yeah?
From Israel. My friend Elijah from Israel. Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Adrian.
Hey, Delvin. Hey, I know who you are, Delvin. How you doing?
Cool. I'm well, thank you. I can't see your face, so I can't remember your face. I'm rubbish with names. I'm better with faces. Yes. So what did he tell you about the talk today? What did he tell you about it?
Oh, I got on like 5 minutes ago because I got on late because I like when I got on Zoom, I couldn't really hear you guys at first. Right. But it was about the Sabbath, is letting us know like which day is the Shabbat, because we was taught that it's every Saturday, every week. And then like we wasn't taught to go off of the like.
I start your video. Put your video on.
The moon and whatnot like that, right? Because so video, let me see. Because I'm in here with some sheeps and stuff right now, guys.
Some sheep.
Hey, before you go any further, what part of Jordan are you in? Is he still with us? Okay, well, when he get back, the scripture I was referring to was Psalms 81 verse 3. Now the KJV says the new moon. I did some research about the new moon too. For one, I don't look at the new moon as a holy day or a feast day or the day of decease from rest. I don't follow that. The law says nothing about that, and I could go deeper into it. But as far as the term new moon, you actually study the ancient Paleo-Hebrew or the so-called Phoenician, there is no term new moon. It just says the beginning of months, or it can also be translated as the deceiver tried to twist it up. It could just mean feasts or holy days, like it talks about over there in Ezekiel chapter 44. But yeah, so that in different translations, it's going to say full moon. There in Psalms 83 and 81 and 3, but there in KJV it says just says new moon. It doesn't give you the description of what that moon is, but different translations it actually says full moon.
Right. Can I just interject here? So I just been searching a book for the word moon, and I came across Job 31:26. Okay, so it said, "If I beheld the sun when it shined, or the moon walking in brightness," which would indicate to me full moon. So, I'm
sorry.
So I'm just saying it's making a contrast there, because it would have then, if new moon meant full moon, then it would say, "I beheld the sun when it shined, or the new moon." So I'm not 100% sure there. I'll have to look up what you're saying about the new moon in Paleo Hebrew, but I'll do that next. But I'm seeing
wasn't no term it wasn't no term called new moon, because the Paleo. I think you mentioned this before. You described that how it was just you have like pictures. You described the picture, the picture method. Yep. But you may be able to find. If you find it, let me know. But I haven't found anything concerning that translated to new moon. It just talks about the months. It doesn't say new moon or anything like that. But
I'm just gonna do a bit looking up. So, but I'm just saying, I found a reference that seemed to me to mean full moon, as a counterpoint to new moon. But I'm going to look up what new moon means anyway. So,
Okay. And also, just to elaborate quickly, I don't know if the brother, he's ready to speak. I don't know if he's set up. I don't want to be too long-winded, but that verse, that scripture that you just brought up is actually, it tells you, see, once you start to follow the cycle, and when you see the moon, because the moon gets its full illumination from the sun, and according to my studies, once they line up right from each other, like they right perpendicular from each other, they line directly across from each other. That's how you can be able to determine the full moon. Because if the moon looks full for about 3 days, some people get confused. They don't know when the new moon, when is the actual new moon. But it's when the last moon rises, okay, when it's still daylight outside. After it starts rising, when nightfall, then you know that you didn't pass the new moon, you went too far. So it's when they're right across from each other, as the moon is rising, the sun is simultaneously. And it's that last moon that it's going to rise late, like about, I think in the summertime, it rises about 45 minutes to 30 minutes before it gets dark. During the wintertime, it's going to slowly rise up it gets to the point where it rises up 5 minutes before it gets dark. But once it gets dark and it starts to rise up after nightfall, that's how you know you're into a new month. So like I said, it's just, it kind of makes a lot of sense how everything starts out balanced. And it starts balanced when they're lined up perfectly from each other.
Yeah, I don't want to be argumentative or anything, but I'm finding difficulty with that because, again, my concept of new is when things are reborn. So, a full moon doesn't seem to be new to me. I think, going from nothing to then a sliver is being born,
Can I just ask another thing as well, please? Does the moon not emanate its own light?
Yeah, that's the thing. I didn't want to go into the flat earth thing, but
why not? Why not? What we got to try to assess here, brothers. Okay, this is where I have my little drawbacks because there's other matters of opinion that we have to consider. I feel okay. I don't have all the answers. That's why I'm on here. I'm trying to learn as much as I can, and you brothers seem so much more knowledgeable than me on a lot of things. And when I hear certain things, I want to take it further and try to get and assess what is right and wrong, and to help us. That's what I want to help us come together and try to get some kind of idea of where we're going with this and what we can do with it. I mean, this is why I think the Most High has put us all together to discuss these things. And certainly with Adrian coming on, I thought he had a very, very valid point of some of the books that he's read, that he's quoting from. And if we don't really look into those books, we ourselves aren't going to find out what he knows. No, we can't completely disregard.
No, it's the way I came on. It's like he was firing. Oh, do you know? It's like a question and answers. He's not presenting what he knew.
Well, he just asked us to read a passage out of the book. That's all he did. He just
which I couldn't find, by the way. Okay. I went to the was it 28 and 28, 29. I went there. What I had was not what he was reading.
Okay. Well, when we
said, I don't want to cut you, but you what you just said is good. It's healthy that we have different opinions. We have different ways of looking at things. Now, like Elderly said, how you communicate is the key. You get what I'm saying? We have to come humble because we all come before the Most High. We don't know everything, so we have to be able to acknowledge that. You get what I'm saying? But we also have to be able to communicate with each other and not be arrogant, not be prideful, and just kind of walk humble. And like I said, I'm bringing these things out. I'm letting you know what I've observed, during my studies, and my observing of the moon cycle. But the topic of discussion was about the feast days and the holy days. So I think it would be a good topic that we discuss when these things can possibly begin. But I'm interested to hear y'all opinions and y'all point of views, as long as the dialogue is healthy and long as we all walking for the Most High humble. So that's all I'd say.
Well, the books that we read, obviously we're going to get our own views and opinions from these books. But if we disregard the book of Enoch, if we disregard the book of Jubilees, if we disregard the book of Jasher, and people have read those books, and I've read them, and I think they're very valid books, you know. And if someone's going to come on and quote from these books of their opinion on the feast days and Shabbat, I think it's something that we should listen to, regardless of, I don't think his attitude was that bad, personally speaking, but that's just me talking. But if he's looking into these books and he has, you know, a good point to put across out of those books, it's in our best interest, I feel, that we listen to him. That's my opinion. But if we disregard...
He was quoting from Deuteronomy.
Yeah, he said it's not his opinion. Yeah. He said it's the Most High's word. It's not his opinion. And well, here's my take on this. Be very direct. You know, if someone, I'll give you an example. I may tell someone, say, look, when they start speaking of the devil, I say, look, there is no devil. The Most High does it all. He blesses you, he curses you, he brings the evil upon you and your house, and he does it all. There is no Satan bringing any evil towards you. Someone may quickly scream to me, oh, I believe in the devil. Where did you get this information from? And I tell them, go to Isaiah 45, verse 7. Very simple. It's not to where, well, you have to wait and listen to me speak for 30 minutes and I'm going to get to the answer. Because what he said, I asked him a direct question because it seems to be a question and answer. And that is not the format that we normally use here. Everyone is pretty much, from their perspective, is pretty much giving how they keep Passover, etc. And this is pretty much what we've done. Now, we may not agree on this. I certainly don't read the book of Jubilees or the book of Jasher or the Apocrypha at all. I don't. I've read them, but it's not something that I actually ascribe to.
Let's stop. One moment. Okay. Mm-hmm. Is that universal? Does everybody agree with that? Yes or no?
No one doesn't have to agree with that. That's the whole purpose of this.
I just want to ask, who agrees with that? Who disregards the book of Jubilees, disregards Jasher, and disregards the Apocrypha? Who thinks that's correct?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't subscribe to any of those.
Sorry?
Yeah. No, I would just agree. I don't subscribe to the book. Yeah, that's all.
You don't look at Jasher, Jubilees, or Apocrypha, or Enoch?
No.
Okay.
I do subscribe to those books, but I think you don't need to. I think I think the you get enough of the story in the regular books, right? I personally think you get a deeper understanding of the story from looking at those extra books. So,
and also, what I think what Elder Lee is saying is, you know, forgive me if I'm mistaken, is that I think it was the delivery that really caused the issue. Because, like I said, just because we might not subscribe to them books, me personally, I was very interested in what he had to say. You get what I'm saying? But, you know, just be direct. You know, like I said, I just think that sometimes your delivery could be a little off. You know, that's why we were talking about communication. You know, because like I said, just because I might not subscribe to certain books, or I'm always interested in people's thoughts. You get what I'm saying? And maybe I might spit out the bones, you know, that tactic, spit out the bones and things like that. But, you know, I was interested, but like I said, you know, you have to, you know, your delivery plays a major part in how you communicate. That's all I'm saying. That's just my opinion, Elder. I don't, you know.
I do get that. But I was going to say something. In the book of Jasher, for instance, and also when you read about the 12 patriarchs, their characters, okay? Jasher backs up the 12 patriarchs, how they were as brothers, okay? And they too had conflicts of interest between themselves, but they had to get over it in the end, because that was the only way they could really gain knowledge between themselves, obviously direct from the Most High. But remember, as they progressed in their lives, they moved further and further away from the Most High. So the Most High didn't bless them as he would normally, because they weren't living the law as they should. But on their deathbeds, they do explain that when they talk about, when you listen to the 12 patriarchs and their deathbed confessions, they explain a lot about their character and where they fell short of doing what they had to do for the Most High. And they were warning the children of Israel of how they should be for the future. And if they don't live by the law, what will happen to them? They never lived by the law, and we all know what happened to them. Okay, what I'm saying is the text where that has come from is the book of Jasher and also the 12 patriarchs, and there is evidence of that in Jubilees as well. You know, so for me, those books are valid. You know, and Adrian was coming on then to speak about what he's discovered in those books as well. That's why I thought what he had to say to me personally was very interesting, and I wanted to run it by you guys because you guys are more knowledgeable than me. I don't really know, but I thought what he had to say and his point was pretty good.
Anyway, we should be talking about Passover.
That's
how not for me interject. But how are we going to determine what Passover is and when it is if the texts we are reading are different or we're not agreed on certain texts? Now, regardless of if Dave thinks we should have that information or not, I still think it's valid, because if someone's saying that the moon, and they've got good evidence in text they've read about the moon playing a part in Shabbat, surely it's something we should listen to and take on board. Because for me, I don't think it's an open and shut case that it's Saturday Shabbat. And if we're going on the Gregorian calendar, which is our enemy's calendar, it isn't the right calendar. And we also know that we've had 1,000 years inserted as well. Okay, a lot of things are conflicting, but we can't just, well, me personally, this is why I'm on the talk, because I need to learn, because I don't think it's an open and shut case of what we have right now. We've got to open this out to other people and their views and opinions to a certain degree, because
it's the way how he came across. Everybody was listening to him. It's like he's trying to guess what he's thinking. He's throwing out questions.
Like he's talking to children.
Yeah, so he didn't present where he came from. If he would have presented the way how he looks at the Passover, we would have listened, and then if we would have thought everybody would have made their own opinion, but he didn't. Okay, he didn't come at it this way.
Personally speaking, I don't think he had a chance to really. I mean, you guys were very ready to allow him.
The way how we started off, well, if you don't agree, if you don't like these books, I will sign myself off. The way how he came across.
All right. He does read the Targums as well, you know, and the Targums I feel is another valid book that I think is worth reading, worth looking into, because a lot of information is in there. Now, you know, it says it's pseudo, yeah, but pseudo is sham, yeah, but sham is shem, yeah. So he could have gone and explained a lot of that as well, which is so interesting.
Anyway, that's gone. Leo, wanted to ask you. Anyway, because when you done your Passover, I saw your video, you're saying about leavened bread.
Yes, that's important. That I do. I'm certain Brother Benai does the same, and you know, we're to have all the leaven out of our houses. for those 7 days, we're not to eat anything leavened. You'll be surprised what has leaven in it. Some flours have leaven in it already. You may find leaven in things that you would not believe that's in your house. So you're simply to go through your house. Normally I will do that before Passover, roughly about a week, 2 weeks before. I start throwing out all the leaven stuff, or would start to eat it, to consume it prior to. But for the 7 days, from the evening of the 14th all the way to the 21st, you're to have no leaven. No leaven is to be found within your dwelling, and you're not to make a mistake and eat a sandwich or anything like that, or eat anything that has leaven in it. Also, for those 7 days, each day I would eat a piece of unleavened bread. You can bake that on your own, or you can go get some of these unleavened wafers at your local grocery store. It's hard to swallow those. It's best to actually make your own unleavened bread. So that's very important also. Like I said, this is how I commemorate Passover. And for that, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, etc. So for that week, no leaven in the house, and no leaven is to be eaten at all.
Yeah, I was just saying that, oh, by the way, this is hibiscus tea. This ain't wine, you know. But I would recommend hot water cornbread if you know how to make that. That's what we eat. We mostly eat hot water cornbread. Here on the East, they got a lot of, but they mostly eat unleavened bread here, so it's a lot of varieties. But I wanted to ask y'all concerning the Passover. What do y'all recommend as far as What do y'all normally eat for bitter herbs? Because I got a bunch of them, but I don't eat for bitter herbs during the Passover.
Dandelion.
Dandelion? Okay.
That's what we eat. Dandelion is pretty bitter. Yeah. I know, Dave, you're raising your hand. Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I was muted as well. I was going to say that what I was doing was eating flatbread, kind of like almost like a tortilla type thing, with coriander and dill weed and all the bitter, bitter herbs I could find. But was it just bitter herbs? Because I was adding other things to it, but predominantly the coriander and dill weed and stuff. Was it was there any? Were we allowed to eat anything else with it, or did it have to be just bitter herbs? Because then last year I messed up if that's the case.
Bitter herbs, unleavened bread, and what you said, Dawid, about the lamb is absolutely right. It's got to be a male of the first year and all this. And if you purchasing the lamb at the store, you don't know, what the deal is. But usually I have a piece of lamb, but it's more, like I said, for me, it's more of a commemoration. I'm remembering what Yah did for our ancestors, and that's my way of commemorating it. Like I said, we're not going to fully. We've been in prison. We're still in prison. We're convicts. We haven't come out of our captivity. I don't care where we are in the earth. We're still in captivity because we're not running anything. We're not calling the shots. There's another people calling the shots right now. Until Yah comes, knock them off their mark and put us in position, we're not going to be fully aware of everything in its proper context, understanding and being able to worship Yah properly. But at this point, there's nothing holding us back to prepare for that time when we do get out of prison. You see what I'm saying? It's all about preparation. You don't want to start, okay, we're out of prison. Oh, well, let me start learning now. Wait a minute. Now I'm confused about what this says. No, you want to have an idea of what's going on. So when we are taken out of prison, we have an idea of what's going on. You know what I mean? That's what it's all about. A lot of people say, well, you can't do that. You're being disobedient. Look, Yah said in Deuteronomy 30, you read the very first few verses in Deuteronomy 30, that if we bethought of ourselves in the land of our captivity and turned and kept all his law that he gave us that day, then he will turn us around and bring us out and do all these wonderful things for us and bless us and what have you. So it's important. Dave, I thought, made a good point. The last session we had, it was a very good analogy where you have two young brothers and they're misbehaving. And so you punish them, you send them to your room. So send them to their room and one is acting a fool while the other is sitting still. Well, the one who's sitting still behaving himself, he's going to come out the room quicker than the one who's acting a fool. See, the one who's acting a fool, well, I'm on punishment, so what do you expect me to do? I'm on punishment. I'm going to tear the room up. Well, no, you don't tear the room up. You prepare to do what's right so that you can be brought out of the room, out of punishment. You see, so certainly it's important for us that we keep Yah's laws as much as we can. You keep Yah's laws, because let's face it, now here in America, I don't care what anyone says. They say, oh, you can't keep the Sabbath, you can't do this, you can't do this. There is really nothing stopping you here because there is such a thing here called freedom of religion. I mean, people can worship the devil here, and some people do. They worship Satan or what, their idea of Satan. Some people worship animals. Some people worship the moon. Some people worship themselves. You can indulge in this country whatever your desire is. So there's no way if you're in this country and you decide, I want to keep the Sabbath, you can keep the Sabbath. It's up to you. No one's going to come with a gun to your head and tell you, oh, you can't do it. You're violating, we're going to lock you up. They're not going to do that. So you have that freedom of expression. So there's nothing stopping us literally from observing and commemorating the laws that Yah gave us if you want to. If you don't want to, say you don't want to. I would say that to anybody who doesn't want to. Say that you don't want to, but don't tell me that you can't, because I'm doing it and I've been doing it for years. You know, so you can't say, oh, you can't keep the Sabbath here. I can keep it. What are you talking about? We can't. So that's my view on it.
The other thing is, you know, as far as the Passover is concerned, I think, you know, you mentioned about commemorating it. I think the book basically tells us we commemorate it by almost reenacting the thing. That's why it is unleavened and bitter herbs, because they didn't have time to prepare a proper meal. So I think it also says that we have to eat it in haste.
In haste.
So when we make it, it's like we've got to like gobble it up rather than just, you know, have a meal. So it's all about commemorating it. Maybe the form isn't important. It's just the commemoration of the act, as it were. Am I making sense? I'm not sure.
Yes.
That is understood.
What I usually do, what my wife and I what we do is we'll dress up, and I have a staff that I have, you know, that I've gotten when I was with the Demona group. I have a staff and all this. So we'll eat, and I'll stay fully dressed the whole night until the morning. And I'll eat with my staff right nearby me, you know, I'm serious. And now we have a thing in my home where you're gonna take your shoes off in my home. That's just the way it is. You're gonna take your shoes off in my home. But on that day, I have some sandals that are, you know, clean, and she does too. And we'll have that, and we'll keep that on our feet the whole night, you know, and I'll sleep. If I have to sleep on the floor or something, I'll lay a blanket down or whatever, and I sleep on the floor. And that's what I do for the Passover. And Dave is right. They commemorate. It's almost like you're reenacting. You know, you're reenacting the event. And it's to keep it embedded in your mind what Yah did for us, you know. And so that's what it's all about. It's commemorating and honoring, you know.
What if, I thought it just came into my head, what if the second Exodus is going to happen on the Passover?
I thought of that too.
Because then we'd be ready for it. If
Right.
if we're preparing for that, and we're going to have to leave in haste again, we'll be ready. We'll be the ones ready to go out the door.
You know, for the people that may be looking at this, I'm going to give them a quick synopsis real quick for them to kind of look over and consider a few things. As it pertains to Passover, where you have this crucifixion deal and this Easter, is actually a parody of Passover. So for those who are listening and that may be Christians coming out of the Christian church or maybe still in the Christian church, you have to understand clearly what Passover represents over Easter. There is no such thing as Easter. Easter is not a feast day, nor is it a holy day of the Most High. Leviticus chapter 23 lists the Most High's feast days and his holy days. And there's no such thing as Easter. Easter, they're claiming that someone died for you and raised up in 3 days. In actuality, it is taken from Passover. On Passover, the Most High killed the firstborn, male and female, and everything that was the firstborn, males as well as animals, of the Egyptians. Why? He did this because the Egyptian Pharaoh was holding the Most High's firstborn. So the Most High told the Pharaoh, release my firstborn that he may serve me. That firstborn is not JC, that is the entire congregation, the entire family of the house of Israel. The Pharaoh refused to let the house of Israel go, who are the sons and daughters of the Most High. So therefore, since the Pharaoh was holding the firstborn of the Creator, he killed the firstborn man and beast of everything in Egypt. So we are to understand clearly that there's no such thing as one person dying for everyone and their sins. What simply happened was the Egyptians, their lives were ransomed so that the house of Israel could be delivered out of the land of Egypt. So we are to understand clearly why we're keeping Passover is to commemorate and to remember what the Most High did for his son and daughters, who happens to be the entire house of Israel. And this has absolutely nothing to do with anyone by the name of JC. And our people are to know this, and the people of the nations who seek the Most High with their whole heart, their whole soul, they are to know this as well. And you can read Exodus chapter 12, that way you understand clearly when the beginning of months are. Most people do not know that the month begins, the beginning of months or the beginning of the years in the month of Abib. This is why we keep Passover, and that the beginning of the year is not January. This was done by these Romans, by these Christians, by these Catholics. And these are things that our people need to know, that when we're speaking about Passover, most people have never heard of it and don't know what it is. So that's a quick, plain in English, exactly why we keep the Passover, because we are the sons and daughters of the Most High, and we were redeemed by him from the bondage of the Egyptians, and no one died for us but a bunch of Egyptians, plain and simple. And so if we're going to be delivered from this captivity, a whole lot of people is going to have to die, but instead of it being in one nation, it's going to be in many of
them. I also got a question as far as the Easter thing. I mean, where's the chicken? Because rappers don't like that concept. Like, where are they getting these Easter eggs from? It never did make sense to me. Even before I was in the truth, it didn't make sense to me.
Well, our people have got some reading to do as it pertains to that.
It's crazy when you look at it. It was Ishtar. I mean, I don't even want to get into all that. These deities that they came up with. It's just an amalgamation. They mixed a lot of religions together, but it has to do with Ishtar, who was and virgin sacrifice and all this other kind of
fertility,
thing.
Fertility, yeah.
Fertility, there you go. All that kind of stuff. You know, the Vestal virgins with the Catholics or what have you, you know, and all this other kind of thing. But it's all hogwash. But I'm glad Malachi did break that down. That's good, because there are a lot of people that are watching this program and they may not be familiar with Passover. I'm speaking with you guys like, you know, we're all familiar with it, and y'all might be familiar with it. But it's true. I often, we get to talking to this thing, and we often forget that there's an audience who's probably going to be tuned in who have no idea what we're talking about. But that's important to note. We ought to commemorate and observe Yah's laws. That we have to do that. And it's like Lee had said in his program before, Malachi. The opposite of observing the law. If you don't have the law, you're lawless. And you can't hope to think that the Most High is going to come and get you if you're lawless. You know, that's foolish. So you have to, there are laws and they have to be kept. He gave us laws, and we're in this situation because we didn't keep the law as we should have. And now this great awakening is happening. We're awakening from the dead, from sleep. We're coming into knowledge and understanding, and it is important that we observe Yah's law. And we have to read this book in order to observe Yah's law.
So I wonder if oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say, I wonder if then that extends to the blood on the doorposts, because if again, it's that supposition that I might be right that the second Exodus is going to come on the Passover, and you did say that, Brother Malachi said that a lot of people were going to die just as in Egypt. Well, the blood on the doorpost was to let the angel of death pass over us. So what if we don't have the blood on the doorpost this time? I don't think a red ribbon's going to do, is it?
No, it won't. But I don't think at this point, being the fact that we can't, none of us, I mean, in the cities that we live, in the suburbs where we live, the average person doesn't have access to rearing a lamb, taking it out on the 10th day of the year, or anything like that. So the Most High, certainly, he understands our current circumstances and our predicament. But like you have stated, is the fact that we are actually commemorating, and we're actually carrying through, practicing the quote unquote righteous acts. That way, when it's time to keep Passover, it is something that we've been practicing in captivity. Now we just have it how to do it perfectly. You understand? Along with, Day of Atonement, we know good and well we're to fast the entire day. Now, come time to do that, when we're in the land, we've been practicing for the past 10, 15, 20, 30 years. We can go a day and not eat anything. So if we continue to practice the righteous acts, then when we get it in its full entirety, it'll be that much more of a joyous occasion for us to keep them.
Now, sometimes I do get on here, I forget that we have an audience, and I want to raise some questions that I know that flows throughout the Hebrew Israelite community, and it's about what we talked about as far as the lamb goes. Now, I know I see these brothers in these camps; they actually sacrifice the lamb. They kill it, they cut it. So this is one of the reasons why I started to look deeper into it, as far as the lamb goes. I used to eat the lamb as well. I used to eat the lamb every year. Actually, last year I ate the lamb. But this year, I started, the Most High just was like, he was putting it on me, like, as far as this being a sacrifice. So what are y'all thoughts? Because, you can't sacrifice without outside the tent. You know what I'm saying? That's a duty for the Levites. Even in Passover, they're the ones that sacrifice the lamb. Then we'll take it home and we prepare. So what are y'all thoughts about that as far as the sacrificing? I don't think that should be done anywhere outside of the holy oblation or the temple grounds. What are y'all thoughts as far as these other camps out here actually sacrificing the lamb?
Is it the Levites what sacrifice the lambs?
Yeah,
the Levite. Well, the Most High made it plain. It's like cutting off a dog's neck, because he's rejected the sacrifices for the children of Israel. So, this is another thing for our audience that's actually now coming into this book and understanding the book of Remembrance, is that the go-between between the congregation, the children of Israel, and the stranger that is of a contrite spirit, that way the strangers don't feel as though there's no place for them. That go-between is and are the Levites. You cannot just simply walk up to the Most High's temple and say, you know what, I'm going to just sacrifice this lamb right here. The go-between would be those Levites. And many of these camps that I've seen many years ago, where they're actually inviting people to come in. They're all dressed up. There's wine at the table. They've roasted a lamb somehow, and it's a big banquet, and they charge you a good bit in order for you to attend, laughing and joking. And Passover was, you're to eat this thing, shoes on your feet, staff in your hand, and you're to eat it in haste. For we were being kicked out of that land. We're being hurried out of there. And that's the reason why the leaven, the dough, what they were trying to bake, did not have time to rise, for we were leaving in haste. And so therefore, for them to throw such a banquet and charge you to actually come to it, sit down in your best attire, laugh, joke, and smoke, that does not represent Passover, no way, no how. And neither are we to bring any sacrifices or to do any sacrifices in the many lands in which we dwell, because when you do that, there has to be atonement for that blood of that animal, first of all, and it has to be done in the presence of the temple where the Levites are there, and they will be able to get their portion, etc. So these are things that we cannot do, in my understanding, based on what I am reading. But this is why we all must read for ourselves, because we may read certain text and gain different things from it. But whatever it is you gain from it, you are to go with what you see.
And I'll back that up with a bit of scripture. Hosea 3, 4, and 5. Okay. So 3, 4. For the children of Israel shall abide many days without a king, without a prince, and without a sacrifice, and without an image, and without an ephod, which are the priestly garments and things, without a teraphim. And then 3:5 says, afterward shall the children of Israel return and seek the Lord their God and David their king. So it's telling you in the last days, right, in our lands of our captivity, we won't be sacrificing. We shall go from many days without a king or prince or a sacrifice. So it's telling you that in the lands of our captivity, we won't be sacrificing.
And to just say, speaking of sacrifice, especially if you read the book of Psalms, you will find out, and also Hosea, you find out that our sacrifice here is our praise to Yah, our prayers. That is our sacrifice.
The calves of our lips.
That's right, calves of our lips, you know. So if you're looking for sacrifice, that's it. Your prayer and humility to the creator of heaven and earth is indeed your sacrifice, you know. So no, you're right for bringing that up, Dawid, and Malachi. I thought, you know, what you said is absolutely spot on too. You can't sacrifice here in these countries where we are. We have to be in the land. You have to have the priest set up. You have to have the temple set up. You have to have all these things in place before the sacrifice can take place. But what we can offer, if you're looking for sacrifice, you can pray and humble yourself to Yah, facing the temple, and make your obeisance to Yah of hosts. But as far as the lamb is concerned, like I said, I usually have a piece of lamb that we eat just for that day. I'm like, we're gonna eat on it the whole week. We just get enough to satisfy for that night, you know. We'll eat the lamb, and then it's unleavened bread for the rest of the week, you know, throughout the 7 days, you know, and you have a piece of unleavened bread every day, and it's in commemoration of what Yah had done for us and what He's gonna do for us again, because you know, we're hopeful that we won't be too much longer in this captivity. So that's very important.
Right. Does anybody have an actual calendar, like a Hebrew calendar, that we can refer to? Because, you know, the Passover is fairly well defined as far as I'm concerned, but I struggle with the rest of the feast days. You know, I have lots of different, you know, I hear lots
you
of
can go to Leviticus 23.
23. Be right back, Joe.
What I've done is I've compiled a little list that I use as a calendar. And I use Leviticus 23 as my guide. And then I go from there, you know, and like I've said earlier, I regard April as the beginning of the year. I mean, we don't have the right calendar, I understand, but I regard April 1st as the new year, the start of the new year. And I go through that, through the calendar as spelled out in Leviticus 23. I go by the calendar accordingly, you know, because in Leviticus, it spells it out for you. You know, it tells you on, you know, the day and the month, you know, for example, Passover's the first, you know, in the first month on you know, the 14th at evening, which is the start of the 15th day. And, you know, we go from there. You know, October 1st will be the 7th month, starting from April, May, June, July, August, September, you know, October 7th, you know, and, you know, you count the days like that, you know, you count the months like that.
And you know what, Elder, it's not too far off. You get what I mean? Because the last, you know, Elder Dave asked if we have an actual calendar. You know, I have a calendar, but I'm not saying that this is the calendar because I'm still learning myself. You know, I'm still trying to find the patterns and things like that. But as far as from my observation, like I said, the last 2 years, the New Year's been beginning late March, early April, you know, and then that 7th month usually falls within the October, you know. So, you know, if you're going according to the, because I said you got to go according to the harvest season when things start to crop and, you know, and things like that. So it's not too far off, you know. So, you know, like I said, we all still learning. And I don't, for me, for one, this is for the audience listening. I know we all trying to find the right time. We all coming from different understandings. And to me, like I think Elder Malachi said, as long as you abide by law, as long as you keep it, as long as you're trying, as long as you set your heart to do, you know what I mean, the ordinances and the statutes and the judgments and the precepts, then you okay with me. You know, whether we serve on the same day or not, you okay with me.
Right. You know, because it's about that honest effort. You know, you have to remember, the first thing you want to do is develop a relationship with the Most High. You have to be honest. You have to fall before him and acknowledge your faults. You have to acknowledge your ways. And that's personal. You know, I mean, go in the room, shut the door, and talk to him. You know, pour your heart out to him and make it personal. You know, a lot of people, I think, you know, it's my strong opinion. A lot of people, they look for social media. They look for friends. They look for other people. They look for confirmation through other people that they're doing the right thing. And that's not the way to go. You know, you have to make this personal. You know, I mean, these books are inexpensive. You can get a book of remembrance, AKA a Bible. You can get that for little to nothing, you know, these days. And put that time in it, study it, and read, but pray. Develop a relationship with the Most High and be honest. I mean, it's foolhardy to try to hide anything from the Most High, because Yah can see through you. He knows your thoughts before you even think them. So you're not going to fool him. You know, just be honest and honestly reach out and make that attempt to change your ways and conform your ways to the law and the ways of the Most High. Because sincerity is what's going to make him reach you. Once he sees that broken and contrite heart, you know, then he will reach you. He'll know, hey, this guy's serious. He'll reach you, you know, and he'll work with you. And when you read this book, the more you read it and you become familiar with it, the more it's going to open up to you. It's going to start making sense to you. When you find that you're leading an obedient life, when you're doing what he says, he'll open it up to you.
Here's the thing, and I like everyone to understand, especially those who are listening. If the Most High can't make sense, no one can. So once you look at the law and you observe it carefully, it makes sense. It makes sense. And to validate that law, all you have to do is look at someone who is not obeying those things that are walking contrary to it and see exactly what they're reaping from walking contrary to that. Someone who is an adulterer, all types of problems comes with that. Whoremongering, all types of sexual plagues comes with that, and hardships. So when you start looking at the law, a lot of hardships comes with that. Now, as it pertains to Passover, and I've discussed earlier about the parity between Passover and this fictitious made up Easter. Notice this, on Easter is normally held on the 14th. Also, the 14th day of April is normally when they have this Easter celebration. Notice that's in the same date with Passover. So you have to go read, I want to say Leviticus chapter 12, or it's Exodus chapter 12, carefully, Exodus chapter 12. And that way you see carefully, once you read it, and you see, okay, well, Passover is on the 14th. They also have this Easter thing on the 14th. That way you kind of see how they try to tie this idol into Passover by using the same date and the same time frame. But once you go and you read carefully Exodus chapter 12, then the whole story of this resurrection madness falls apart, and you know exactly where they stole this story from in order to create this fictitious idol that would cause the children of Israel and the stranger that is of a contrite spirit to go astray.
Anybody got anything else? Or we got 5 more minutes?
Yeah, like I said, it's a blessing, you know, to be on here and everyone's like-minded, and we all in agreement that, you know, you should be keeping these feast days and like I said, try to observe them and try to practice them, you know, as best as you can, as best as your knowledge. And it's a process, you know. That's why I'm starting to realize it's a process, and it takes time, you know. It takes time to practice this and implement into your everyday life. And that's how you're going to do it. I'm not a believer that you're just going to get dropped off in the land and all of a sudden you're going to know how to do all these things and you're just going to become a new person. I don't follow that. I don't look at the utopia of things. I think everything's a process, even getting to the land. You know, you have to purge out certain ways in you. Like, that's the same way with the law. You have to practice it. To sit back and just not do it at all and then think you're going to get to the land and all of a sudden you're going to know how to reenact these feast days. It's just, to me, it's unrealistic.
I certainly agree. Though we know certainly Dave clearly says that he does not at all, or he does. He follows after, or he does believe and take into account the book of Enoch, etc. But even though that is the case, we have never had any type of confrontation with Dave or any problems with Dave at all. The conversation has always been respectful, and we are growing. Though he may view those books in a different way, and I certainly don't, but we understand clearly that the common denominator in all of this is the Most High's law, statutes, judgments, and precepts. Now, once I look at Dave as my brother and realize that he's walking in that law, whether he reads the book of Jubilees or anything else, that becomes irrelevant to me as far as my dealings with him. He's walking in the Most High's law, statutes, judgments, and precepts, and I will have nothing but love and respect and admiration for him. And you know, the law, at the end of the day, you cannot get out of this mess without that law. Period. And you cannot grab a hold of the book of Jubilee and grab a hold of the Apocrypha and get out of this mess. It's not going to get you out. The book of the law is going to do it. And so therefore, that is the common denominator for all of us. And so therefore, what another man reads or may ascribe to, I mean, at the end of the day, those books can say a whole lot of things, and I'm certain they will say some things that's important as well. The bottom line is that law. Period. And so we know clearly what transpired and what got us in this mess. What got us in this mess is not adhering to law. So can we read about what the patriarchs said on their deathbed? I don't need to. I know clearly why they're on their deathbed, and I know exactly why they've got all the problems that they've encountered. They failed to follow that law. And I can get all of that information straight from the horse's mouth. I can get it straight from the prophets that were there at that time, and I can get it straight from the Most High himself on exactly what Israel has done to him. And I can find all of that in the 5 books of Moshe and the following prophets.
Yeah, indeed. But you know, a book like the 12 Patriarchs is good as supplementary information because you know, the Testament of Judah is spot on. He's telling us that our weakness is women.
Judah, Reuben, Asher. These are very, very important deathbed confessions on how they live their lives and the problems that they encountered and how they were trying to advise us and their children how to be. So for me, it just backs up a lot of stuff, you know. I'm in the pursuit of truth as everybody else is. And I don't think anybody has all the answers. I know I haven't got them. I'll be willing to listen to anything and read as much as I can. I'm not going to read about many things.
Yeah, none of us have all the answers. The Most High is the one that has all the answers. But at the end of the day, what this boils down to is discipline. So, well, we know the problems with women. We saw the problems with women pertaining to Solomon and what he did, and all the others, and David and what he did. So we can see clearly the ramifications of you doing things that you're not supposed to do. But what it boils down to, I mean, Brother Dawid, you know what I'm talking about, right? So we know what David did. We know what Solomon did. All right, and those are just 2 prime examples of when it comes to dealing with women. What this comes down to is a lack of discipline at the end of the day. But That's part of the Most High's law also, is being able to discipline yourself. An undisciplined man is unable to walk within the confines of any law. And that's why self-discipline and governance is important. So at the end of the day, we do understand, okay, well, how to deal with women. Okay, well, fine. We saw exactly how not to deal with women based on what Solomon has done, and certainly based on what David has done. And we saw clearly how that caused the whole nation to be torn apart. So if that's the biggest example right there. The whole nation was torn apart because of what one man did pertaining to women. So therefore, that's the biggest example we can see right there. Everything else is cupcakes compared to that. So at the end of the day, we understand a few things. In order for us to walk within the Most High's law, statutes, judgments, and precepts, we must be disciplined in all aspects of life.
That's a major discipline. Discipline is a strong word, and trust me, it means a lot. You know, without discipline, you can't keep the law without discipline.
Can't be done.
Yeah, all I'm saying is that yes, in the book itself, that's all you need to figure out who we are, who our Most High is, and what we're supposed to do. But all I'm saying is those extra books, they give the cherry on top. They give the frosting, so that you know, you get a sort of more rounded view of it. Yes, David and Solomon did mess up as far as it, you know, pertains to women, but as I said, the Testament of Judah basically already said that's what they were going to do, and that's what we're going to do. You know, look in America especially. Well, no, not just America, over in this country. You know, the enemy used women against us. It's not so obvious in America, but in this country, when I was looking at some books from the 1700s, it was a plan. It was a plan to use women to kind of lead us astray. So yeah, the books, the extra books, just give you a more rounded sort of view of the story. So yeah, I appreciate them for that. For that very much.
I just think sometimes when we have the law, and I said this a while ago, the law is very, very difficult for some people to live by, you know, and we got to do our best to guide people as much as we can, because as I said before, some brothers out there don't even know there is a law. They don't even know. You laugh, and I'm right, aren't I?
Well, they were taught there is no law.
Yeah,
that's what they were taught.
Yeah,
and still are taught that.
Yeah, to this very day, you know. And so we all know here on this talk that there is a law, and there's ways of finding it and means of understanding it as best as we can. And for me personally, I find those other books are good references and good guidelines to the law. So the more information I can absorb from all these other texts, I will do so. That's how I learn, you know, and that's why I introduced Adrian, etc. But, you know, I appreciate and respect every single person here and their views and opinions. As I said, I'm here to learn, just as the viewers are here to learn as well, if they're watching this. But I personally wouldn't rule out a lot of these books. I would reference them in certain areas where I know that's reached out to me, where I can understand the law more through these texts. That's why I mention them. That's all.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, Delvin. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
You know, you got an audience that's watching. You know, everybody that's watching, you know, you go do the studying for yourself. You know, it's good that you get to hear different point of views. You get to, you know, different knowledge and different backgrounds. You get to take this time, you know, just go ahead and study on yourself and ask the Most High to show you the way. And, you know,
every day, man. Every day.
What I would say is definitely study the law. You want to study the book, you know, Genesis to Malachi. You want to read it. You want to reread it as much as possible. Become intimately familiar with it. Then, once you become intimately familiar with it, if you want to delve off into those other books, fine. But I'll say this, and I'm gonna go out on a limb and say this. When you go deal with those other books, you're not gonna find it as rewarding. I challenge you, read that book of remembrance, Genesis, that Old Testament, so-called Old Testament, Genesis to Malachi, read it like it's the thing to do, become familiar, know it like the back of your hand, then try to go to those other books. And I'm telling you, for me, you're gonna be putting them down like, man, this is junk, because it's not gonna say, and not everything. I mean, I know they got some information in it, but it's not. You're gonna find the holes in those other books. You will find holes in those other books. I'm not gonna say, because I haven't really read those all, not in totality. I've never read the entire book of Yasher. I've read excerpts. I've never read the entirety of the book of Enoch. I've read excerpts, and I've seen some things that it just didn't sit well with me after reading that book of remembrance. So I would say to everyone, if you're looking to read that book of remembrance, Genesis to Malachi. Make sure that's the first thing you do. Make sure you read it. Make sure you say that you're very familiar with it, because a lot of people are going off into the other books, and I know what y'all saying is valid, because there's some good stuff in them, but they're reading those books and they're not spending time in the law. If you spend time in the law, you will really find the jewel that you're looking for. And that will help guide you through. That'll give you that standard. That will get you disciplined. Then if you want, then yeah, you can go off and you can read what you want. I mean, that's fine. You can read whatever you feel helps you. But I'm saying, for me, that I don't find, personally, I haven't found those other books as rewarding, because honestly, when I read them, I'll come across something like, it just seems this doesn't seem to be saying the same thing the law says, for me.
One thing that was confusing to me, and like I said, I don't just dismiss things. I do my research on them, and like Elder just said, I use the Book of Remembrance as my foundation. And as far as the Book of Jasher, like when you read that, you go into the book of Joshua, he's prophesying something in the book of Joshua. And then when you go to 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, now he's prophesying during the time of David. Well, what time period did he prophesy in? Because that was very confusing, because that was, you got a long gap between Joshua and David.
No. That's because Jasher isn't a person.
Oh, okay.
Jasher means upright record, truth. Yeah? It's not a person. He's not somebody who prophesied. No,
and the Book of Jubilees is they call it a mini Genesis.
It's a timeline.
Okay, but it has very, very important timelines in there as well.
I didn't know about time. Okay, Dave. So who wrote the Book of Jasher?
That I don't know, but as you say, right?
Unknown.
The in Joshua. Right, they're saying the context of the mention of the book of Jasher is, yes, Joshua did this amazing thing and made the sun and moon stand still. Yeah, it must be true because it's written in the book of Jasher.
Book of Jasher, yeah. So I read that.
Yeah, that's the context. It must be true because it's written in the upright record.
Oh, and then the time of day, I think it's mentioned that they had I think he said a prayer after Abner died, after Abner was slain. Well, it was between Abner and Saul. I think one of those people had died, and then they had said a prayer, and they said that was mentioned in the book of Jasher too. That's why I was a little confused. I didn't know, because you're talking about the sun standing still in the book in Joshua. Then it's talking about the prayer that they made after one of those people was killed. So I was confused, but thanks for clearing that up.
Yeah, it's like Chronicles. It's like a chronicle of this happened, this happened, this happened. And just to say something to what Benaiah said. The book of Jasher to me was a thrilling book to read, and I'm not saying it's better than reading the book of Remembrance itself, but it was thrilling to me to get the context of everything that happened in Genesis. right? Because Jasher just goes up to Moses. It goes from the beginning all the way to Moses. So does Jubilees, beginning to Moses. Book of Enoch is all about pre-flood. So those books give you all the context, in Genesis. So, for instance, when the Pharaoh says, "Let us deal wisely with these Israelites," Genesis just says that's what the Pharaoh said. Well, if you go into Jasher, it tells you why he said that. It tells you why they were so afraid of us. And that's a great thing about Jasher, because it tells you in no uncertain terms why the other nations fear us so much. Okay, because sorry.
No, I was just saying, quick question. I just want to you said something I didn't want to get too far before I don't want to forget. You said that the book of Jasher is chronicles from just during the time of Moses.
No, it's from the beginning to Moses. Same with Jubilees, but Jubilees gives you a timeline, because it tells you when everything happened.
Okay, this is why, I'm sorry to cut you there, Dave. This is why when we talk about Shabbat and about the feast days, Jubilees gives you a good indication of when these things are and when we should be celebrating them, and etc. But not only that, it does mention about, in the latter days, in the final days where we are right now, that we'll be getting Shabbat wrong. We'll be getting the feast days wrong, and I really feel that, we haven't come to the end or to a conclusion about some of these feast days yet. I'm not 100% convinced. But when you read these books, it does give you a broader perspective on everything. I'd recommend the read to the viewers listening, Jubilees and Jasher, because these timelines are very, very important, and it does tell us in that book of Jubilees that we'll be getting these feast days and these timelines incorrect. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
It's like sorry. It's like what Dave was saying when I listened to the book of Jasher. If I would have listened to that when I was in school, if they would have shown us like the book of Remembrance and book of Jasher, we as a people, we would be on a completely different level. Because they say in the book of Jasher, and they show how powerful the Israelites actually was, we would see ourselves as different people as we see ourselves today. And
quick question for the viewers listening. They might want to do their own research as well as me. I'm interested to, I don't subscribe to it, but I want to know, because I know like the descendants of Esau have, like, I'm not a fan of the, of the Dead Sea Scrolls or nothing like that. So I just want to be able to differentiate if I was to go into these books, or if anybody who wanted to go into these books, to be able to have understanding to what's the word of the Most High Yah and what's been implemented by man. Do anybody know the etymology of these books? Like, when were they written? Where were they written? Who were they written by? I know he didn't. I'm not trying to ask you the same question twice, Elder Dave. I'm not trying to, cause confusion. But like I said, for the people that's listening, and maybe for myself, what's the etymology of these books? When they were written? What language were they written? Where were they trained? Because like I see, to me personally, when you read the Book of Remembrance, even during that time where these books were, according to my understanding, these books were written up. You get what I'm saying? For us to remember, to be able to turn back to Yah, and when you go to places like Isaiah chapter 45, the Most High say he doesn't speak in secrecy. There's nothing hidden from anyone. You know what I mean? So is there a reason why these books a part of the Book of Remembrance and were taken out, or were they added in? Do anybody know the history behind these in order for people to go in and make a true discernment for themselves?
Well, I do know that let's say Enoch, for instance, was a part of the Bible. It was still a part of the Ethiopic Bible. It was found amongst the Dead Sea Scrolls. But what you got to remember is that the Romans, right, or the Edomites, essentially edited. They they took out what books, the books that would incriminate them, which would show who they were. They took out the books that would liberate us. You know, obviously they didn't want us knowing how powerful we were. So that book had to go. I don't know the etymology of Jasher. I think I've got some notes somewhere about it, but I'd have to go search my stuff again. But I don't have an awful lot of information about it. But the information contained within, if you take it into context, you know that they didn't want us to have that information. And it's now, because now is the time of the great revealing of truth, that it's all come out. And it had to come out now because, you know, this is where we would wake up and remember ourselves. So yeah, I don't see deception in it, because the ones who hid it have more to lose, you know, if it ever got revealed.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
It makes sense. It's like, for me, what strengthened the Book of Remembrance for me when I read listen to the Book of Joshua, it's like the stories say what it gives you more insight for me personally, and it's
more intrusive and more information, basically, and more detailed. Yeah, and it backs up the Book of Remembrance in a great way. That's what I think, anyway. So it's very important. I think it's important for me to.
I was reading a little bit of the Targum as far as the law is concerned. It goes into a little bit more detail, you know, but like a lot of that stuff can be substantiated also about the Book of Remembrance, is you know, you take the whole book into account. So, you know, like I said, I just wanted, there were just some questions that I had concerning those books, because, you know, like I said, you know, I never really got any answers as far as like when these books were originated, who wrote them, and things like that. So I was just curious.
Okay. So the most important thing is that we understand what the common denominator is, and there's no one that objects to that. I mean, whatever it takes for you to understand the Most High, His prophets, to understand His laws, if it takes you reading other books for you to get a better understanding, and it can substantiate that law, then so be it.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, just one thing popped into my head. For example, there's bits in Genesis that don't seem to make an awful lot of sense. So Miriam, for instance, and Aaron talking against Moses for marrying an Ethiopian woman. Okay, well, what Ethiopian woman? And why did they get cursed for that? Well, if you go into Jasher, you find that Moses, before he ended up in Midian, he was in Cush, and he became king of the Cush, right? And he was given the wife of the previous king, but because he feared the Most High, he didn't touch her. He didn't go anywhere near her, and eventually, right? You know, she kind of rebelled against him as such, and had him sort of dethroned, so that you know, her son could take the throne, and he left with you know, he left with you know, with good, you know, he didn't leave acrimonious. He left you know, with honor and everything. But he had an Ethiopian wife, but he didn't go anywhere near her. So when Miriam and Aaron spoke against him because that, well, they were bearing false witness against him, because he didn't touch her. He followed the word of the Most High. So that, you know, just that there alone was enough to make, you know, it's one of those things that made me believe that the book was legit, because it literally gave you a rounded story, whereas Genesis just gave you a bare fact.
Yeah. Understood.
Right, should we round this up?
Yeah.
Yep.
Anybody
so great to see you, brother.
Anybody got anything last to say before we round it up?
Peace and y'all bless everybody. Study that Book of Remembrance.
Yeah. Blessings to all you brothers, and thank you for allowing me to be on the talk. And all the viewers watching, I hope you've learned something today. Thank you.
Peace and y'all bless, brothers. It's been a pleasure as usual. Once again, a sharing of information that we may uplift the people and cause them to turn back from their wicked ways and turn back onto the Most High's law, statutes, judgments, and precepts. And I know certainly that these recordings are encouraging to many. And I hope that we will continue to do them, brothers. Peace and y'all bless.
Okay, the last thing I'll say quickly, whether you guys believe in Targums or not, in the Targums, I found out that when obviously Lot's wife looked back, she turned to salt. That wasn't the only reason why the Most High turned her to salt. She was into divination. She used salt in doing different religious practices, okay, behind Lot's back. And so when the Most High obviously recorded all this, she looking back was the final straw, basically, that brought the camel's back, and the Most High turned her into salt. But she was into divination with salt. And I found that through the Targums. But, you know, as you rightly said, Lee, you know, whatever you can look at to extend your knowledge to bring you back to the Most High, do that. That's what I'm doing. Okay. Peace and God bless to all of you.
Peace and God bless.
Peace and God bless, everyone.
Hello.
Dave, call me.
Peace, brother Hank.
Well, Lee, I sent everybody the last video. Everybody got it? The last video?
I got it.
Yeah.
I have to send it from my other email because that email is not actually, I can't upload from my email. I think I've got too much videos. So I'll send it from my other email.
I appreciate it, Hank. I did get it.
Yeah.
Just like I said, remember, you can keep sending, the invites and the videos to that new email address that I gave you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be working on that from now on.
Okay.
And I just want to say to the audience too, I commend these brothers and these elders that's on here. This is how you're able to have a discussion, even when you have disagreements. The maturity level in this room, man, I highly respect it. Praise y'all to you elders. I appreciate it.
Okay. That's cool, bro. Bless.
God bless.
Peace and y'all bless, brothers.
And the Most High bless everyone.
That's right.
Right.
Okay.